This car here
Yes.
might not be as new as the limo, but it's probably, next to the pink Caddy, one of the coolest cars we have in the museum.
I think so. This is the one that people always, it kind of sticks out in your mind when you leave and you think back about all the cars. This purple Caddy. The purple Caddy. Tell me the story, the life of the purple Caddy.
I mean, it has probably one of the most interesting stories because Elvis actually bought this car in Texas. He was on tour, saw it, purchased it, got back to Memphis, flew to Texas to drive it home, and he flew under the name Clint Reno, which Reno was
from Love Me Tender.
His character in Love Me Tender. Him and his girlfriend at the time, Juanico, make the flight to Texas, and then they drive it home, and the original color of it was white. So there are a few photos, if you look hard, that you can see this car as a white vehicle with white interior.
Yeah.
And then Elvis decided to fancy it up a bit and had it custom painted purple. Also had some chrome added to it, and probably one of my favorite photographs in the archives, the picture of Elvis driving through the front gate, and there's two fans there capturing him as he's hanging out the side of this car.
And that's this car.
That is this car.
Wow.
So, I mean, it had such a life. And then, of course, like with Elvis's cars, they, had their lifespan, except for the pink Caddy. A lot of them came and went, and that included this one. And then it was found years later in a junkyard in Alabama.
No.
Yes. And family who found it, they were just restoring a classic Caddy. They were like, this is a really cool car, let's restore it. And when they did the VIN number research, figured out that this was actually Elvis's car.
Can you imagine?
And so you're talking mid-70s.
Oh, yeah.
And they found out that they just literally found Elvis's car in a junkyard.
Wow.
And so what they did is that they were in the process, they had gone and looked at photos and were in the process of having it restored when Elvis passed away, because they wanted to actually bring it back to Graceland and give it to Elvis.
Oh.
And so they finished the restoration work. It was part of their family for years until we built this museum, and then they decided they'd put it on permanent loan here.
Oh,
so it's been here, it's been here since the 90s.
I'm so glad they share it with all the fans,
Yes.
just to be able for us to come in and see it and hear that story. The thing that fascinates me about cars like this too is just the size and what must be the weight of this car, and just how there's really not a lot of safety features if you get down to it. Only the size maybe
no
is
seat belts.
No seat belt, yeah. A rather large steering wheel.
No airbags.
No airbags.
No seat belts.
Metal dashboard.
Of course.
Just.
Yeah, but this is a tank. Can you imagine if this was in an accident? It'd probably feel like a little fender bender.
But I also just see in my, Elvis movie mind, I see Elvis and June, driving back, and this is probably before a lot of highway systems, and they're on back roads coming into Memphis, and at some point he has to stop and get gas. So this pulls up to a gas station somewhere in Arkansas between Texas and Memphis, and Elvis gets out
to pump his own gas. Happens all the time.
And then somewhere there's a gas station attendant who says, "You're not going to believe who came by," and no one believes him.
And no one believes him
because he pays in cash.
Yes, exactly.
Or maybe he pays with a credit card. Elvis never had
credit cards.
Yeah, he never had cash.
But still, it was one of those things. It's like like the stories of Elvis pulling people over on the interstate. It's like, can you imagine being one of those people and going, "You're never going to believe I got pulled over, but it was Elvis who pulled me over." And they're like, "Yeah, right."
Well, I tell you, we've been these two episodes. If you haven't seen episode 1, go back and watch episode 1. But these two episodes have really shown me Elvis's personality kind of comes through in his possessions, but especially in the cars.
Yes, the cars were they were him.
Yeah.
They were his sign that he had finally made it when he was able to buy his first Cadillac, and they just became part of him. And I love the fact that he drove them all.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I need a chauffeur, I'm rich and famous. It's like, no, I'll be the chauffeur, And so they really were personal to him.
Yeah. Just like that, I think I've talked about it before in one of the episodes, where, and from That's the Way It Is, where he's coming through the gate and Joe's in the front seat and Richard's in the back seat and Elvis is driving.
Yeah, it's like Elvis is their chauffeur.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're really amazing vehicles.
And to see them, you still take care of them. You still, it's that's what I think is so fascinating about your job, that everybody wants your job, is you get to to really be a part of Elvis's life in keeping and maintaining these things. And
Exactly. And I mean, maintain them as if, Elvis just left them on the carport,
Yeah.
and, we're keeping them the way that they were so that when Elvis, if Elvis came back, that his cars would be here for him.
Yeah,
So.
but I just look at this car and I go, Elvis, if you could parallel park this, buddy, you were a driver. You were a driver to parallel park this thing.